Hello and welcome to the Franchise Tag Preview Show, Week 18. It is the last of the regular season games. It's Week 18, which we've never sat here and spoke about ever because it's new. It's going to be an interesting one. We don't know who's being rested. We don't know who's out with COVID fully. There's going to be an interesting week, that's for sure. They're all divisional games as well. So there was 2 games last night. We were treated. We treated to the Kansas City Chiefs at Denver, which was, if you watched that one, it was on at 9:30. That was the early one. It was a good game.
Yeah, no, it was. I watched it. It was a decent game. Denver showed a bit of fight in them, which was nice to see. There's a lot of talk about these teams, whether they're going to do anything or not today, the ones that are out of it. But Denver are out of it, and they still put up a decent performance, put up some good points. Melvin Gordon had a good game. And yeah, well, apart from that, but he had a long touchdown run, and it was a decent game. Kansas City had to come back and win it because otherwise they were not going to get. They're now in the number 1 seed, so we'll see what the Tennessee Titans do.
Yeah, it's surprising to see how much different style they play when Drew Lock's at quarterback, because he is a lot more mobile than Teddy Bridgewater, and it really showed with those 2 rushing touchdowns that he got. So I don't know, maybe they should have stuck with him. I don't know.
I think it's the willingness to throw as well, isn't it? That's the other thing. They are a little bit more confident in Drew Lock to put some decent passes out there, whereas for Bridgewater it is a lot of check downs and not a lot. Having said all that, I think Vic Fangio, didn't he come out and say something about basically the reason the other 3 teams are better than them is because they've got better quarterbacks, is essentially what he said. So
there's no harm in not lying, is there?
Yeah.
The other game, if anyone stayed up for it, was the Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. It started off as a close game, and then Dallas just sort of ran away with it.
Yeah, I didn't stay up. I saw the highlights of it this morning. Yeah, I think, to be honest, it was always the Eagles' second string. I saw Devon Smith was out there for a little bit, but to be honest, it was predominantly the second string from the Eagles. Dallas played their first team pretty much all the way through to the 4th quarter, from what I can gather. I wouldn't be too disheartened if I was an Eagles fan with that, because I think that if their second team can hang on to Dallas's first team in that first half, which they kind of did really until the very end of the second quarter, I think that's it shows that you've got something good going there. So I wouldn't be too disheartened. And the one thing I would say, the one guy who to me came out of it that maybe a lot of people hadn't seen so much was Wilson for the Cowboys. Definitely, he's a guy who doesn't get a lot of opportunities because of Gallup and Lamb and Cooper. But yeah, there's someone who's not too bad.
Yeah, I had a little look at him because his name started cropping up quite a bit over the back end of the season. I think he's had 600 and something yards and 6 touchdowns. So I think he's definitely one for them to keep hold of. Last 2 weeks he's been brilliant. The commentators were saying last night they were surprised that Dallas kept a lot of their starters in, a worry of injury. Even when they were well in the lead, they were still in the game. Cooper Rush didn't come until super late in the game. So are you surprised that they risked some of their big names, apart from the running back?
I was a little surprised that Zeke was out there for as long as he was. Someone who has had a few injuries over the course of his career. As for the rest of them, I don't know. I think there's a fine line, isn't there, between resting players and keeping the momentum going and stuff like that. And I know that it's something that the Packers have come out and said. It's like they want to play Rodgers for half the game today. They want to have Devontae Adams out there because, there is an element of rust if you sort of just down tools for a couple of weeks. So I suppose that's a slightly different situation because they got the 1 seed. But yeah, when it comes to Dallas, they're playing next week, whatever. So I was a little surprised that they came out for the second half.
Yeah, I wouldn't risk it, especially when they were quite considerably up and didn't make any changes. We move on to tonight's fixtures, and we'll start off with a game that we're not really sure who's going to start for, I don't think. That's the Cincinnati Bengals at the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, it's a really tough one. They're fairly confident Joe Burrow is not going to be playing. I think Jamar Chase probably won't be risked that much. If I was them, I'd probably keep T. Higgins out as well and Joe Mixon. I'm going to go for the Bengals just because I think they're on a bit of a run at the moment. The team energy is very different compared to the Browns at the moment. The over is 37. Even with backups, and especially the one thing for the Browns is I think they will put points up because of their run game. Cincinnati aren't great against the run, so I think because of that, I would probably go for the over. It is 10-11, so it's not massive, but it's like I think there'll be more than 37 points in the game. But yeah, it's a bit of a. I think the Bengals will take it, but it's who's going to play kind of thing. So
I think I read earlier that Mixon and Higgins were both potentials to not play. They were 50-50 on them, so I think that might be a game time decision.
yeah,
We know that Burrow's not going to play with his knee injury. For me, the main weakness of the Bengals is their O-line, but Joe Burrow just has got something about him that he can get away and move around and produce a bit of magic. And I just don't think a backup quarterback's going to have that same ability, especially when the Browns defense is got some very talented players on it.
I mean, you're probably right. It's just that I've been with the Bengals all year, so I'm not going to give up now.
I'm going to sway towards the Browns. They're at home. It's the last game of the season. They'll want to end that with a win to keep the fans on side, because it could get quite nasty in Cleveland, I think, if they have that much of a bad season. So I'm going to go with the Browns on this one because they've got nothing to lose, really. So, and then they're playing some backups, so they've got to cement themselves somehow to give the fans a bit of something to look forward to next year. So I'm sticking with the Browns in that game. Next game is another one. We don't know who's starting. It's the Green Bay Packers at the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, another one, like you said. I think Rodgers and Adams will play the first half, but there's very little betting when it comes to the players. I think the guy we've been saying the last few weeks, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's going to be one to look out for. If a price comes up for him, then he's going to be worth going for, I think. When it comes to the Packers, I think the one guy who might do something will be AJ Dillon. The Lions struggle against the run, and I can see Jones being rested, but Dillon playing certainly in the first half. I think so. I'd probably look at them too. It'd be interesting to see, because if Rodgers does get rested, then it means that it will be Jordan Love for half a game, which would be nice to see, give him a few reps and see what he can do against a Lions team. I do feel the Lions are probably going to be more up for it. I do think that is something, because Dan Campbell seems to have got this sort of attitude going in this team. So I think that will help them. But we're going to stick with the Packers, obviously.
We've seen it all year from the Lions, haven't we? They're there to play every game, even when they've got a losing record and they were out of it a long time ago. They still show up. I was under the impression that it was probably going to be Jordan Love that started, but you'll know more than me. Do you think we're going to see any of Amari Rodgers, your big wide receiver you took in the draft?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully we'll see a bit of him. He hasn't really done a lot. I think he's come in and they've probably been a little bit like he's not quite what they 100% thought he was capable of doing already. So I think there's been a bit of a learning curve for him. On top of that, they haven't really needed him, I suppose, because they've got Lazard there. They've got
MVS was doing the job, wasn't he? So
yeah, exactly. So I think that probably means he's kind of been punt returner, and that's been about it. But yeah, I think you might see a little bit more from him. I just think, they have spoken about rust when it comes to Rodgers. I mean, when he had all that time off in the summer, the first game, they weren't good. He had the week off because of COVID. The week he came back, he wasn't great. He was all right, but it took like half a game to get him back going again. I think that's why they're probably wanting to make, because they know they've got next week off, they want to give him at least half a game. So I think he'll play the first half, and then I would expect Jordan Love to come out after that.
Yeah, I'd expect them to be in the lead by the time that happens, if that's the case. And I expect your backups, because you've got some really good youngsters on that roster that haven't been coming in because of the last dance veterans all being in there. So I think you should be comfortable with this one, despite the fact the Lions will be doing everything they possibly can to win another game. So I'm going to stick with the Packers in this one too. The next game, I'm guessing you're not very interested in this one at all. It's the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings.
Yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? It's a fight for which coach gets sacked first. So, I think out of the two, I'm going to go for the Vikings because they're at home. That's pretty much it. I mean, it really is a bit of a coin flip. Both teams have been sort of poor compared to what I think we felt they could do. Andy Dalton's going to be playing for the Bears, so no Justin Fields. I do like Montgomery to score. I think, Vikings struggle against the run. They're ranked 27th on that. So I think Montgomery's a decent bet. But when it comes to the two of them, it's kind of a bit of a game that doesn't mean anything. So it's kind of just for pride. I think the Vikings are a team that maybe just have that little bit of extra star quality compared to what the Bears do at the moment. So that's probably what I'd go for them.
Have the Vikings got Kirk Cousins back? Is he back? Is he playing?
I'm not sure if he's back. I think he is. Obviously, that will make a massive difference because, as we saw, Mannion wasn't great. But yeah, I think he is meant to be back. And, the Bears just, even with Dalton, there's just not a lot there. Like I say, they got Montgomery in the run game, and I think he'll probably play and do okay. But it's a bit of a difficult one because, like I say, both coaches, it's looking like it could potentially be both of their last games for these teams, and it's a bit of a tough one to work out who they're going to play and what they're going to do. I think they're both going to want to win. But yeah, I like Montgomery, but I think the Vikings will take it.
Yeah, do you think there's any chance that if whoever wins out of this game, the coach might survive? Do you think Mike Zimmer, especially with what he's done with the Vikings, if he wins this one, it might actually be a lifeline for him?
I think there's more chance of it happening if it is the Vikings. I think the Bears, I get the feeling the decision's been made and they're just letting him finish off the season. With the Vikings, I think it's still a bit 50-50 at the moment. I would argue they probably need to change it because they're just kind of in a bit of a sort of mediocre rut at the moment of not really doing anything. But yeah, I think, they've got players like Jefferson there now. You can't waste that. This is the thing. And what they're doing, like this season, has been a waste of him at a team like the Vikings. So yeah, I think maybe it might help, but I would still probably say both of them need to go, to be honest.
I think with that in mind, I think you might see a bit more from the Vikings. I think Matt Nagy's probably had the conversation and probably given up now. Whereas, like I said, I think Zimmer, this could be a lifeline for him. So I'm going to stick with the Vikings in this game. I think they're very evenly matched, especially with the Bears have been playing better coming into this week. But yeah, I think the Vikings have just got the edge in this game.
Yeah.
Next game up is the Washington football team at the New York Giants.
Yeah, an exciting game for you. I can't back the Giants, home or away. I just can't back them. It's so painful to watch at the moment. And everything that's going on there in the back as well. I mean, when you get dysfunction off the field, unfortunately, it normally spills over to on the field. And it's just everything is a little bit wrong at the moment at the Giants, unfortunately. I think Washington will take it. The one that I do like the look of, a lot of people are, Antonio Gibson is back. The Giants do struggle a bit against the run. But Patterson is at 3-1 anytime. You know, he scored last week. He's shown them what he can do. I think he'll get a few opportunities and at a bit of a bigger price. I think 3-1's not too bad for a team who is okay. They're not awful. They're not great, but they're better than what they're going to be playing.
I tell you what, watching the Giants over the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks has really made me appreciate how good Dan Jones was when he was under
Well,
center,
yeah,
because
yeah.
they literally cannot move the ball at all. They can barely put up 10 points on the board. At
Yeah.
least when Jones was in there, you know, we weren't the most exciting, but I had hope. I literally don't have hope any week with Glennon or From in there. I literally just know we're not going to be able to move the ball. So,
Do you not think that's a bit of a worry on like for the whole like the bigger picture though? Because the problem is that it feels like to most NFL fans that Daniel Jones is not the answer, and yet when you see him come out and you have this instead, you sort of suddenly start going, well, actually, he's the one who's moving the ball. He's the one who's doing stuff. But the problem is that when Daniel Jones was there, it still wasn't really the answer. And this is the problem. It's like it almost makes you feel like they're going to go, yeah, but he did better, so we're keeping. And
I
it's a
think they
little
will.
bit,
I think they
yeah, well,
will.
they probably will, but I don't know if that's necessarily the right thing to do.
It's a really tough decision when you look at it on paper. When you've got a guy that's like 6'6", he can he's real quick, he's heavily set, he's a good thrower of the ball, he's a good pocket passer. He's had his fumbling issues, that's been the main issue. But apparently, he's real good in training, and if you watch the footage of him practice and stuff like that, he looks the real deal. So it on paper, if you put that quarterback towards you over some of the others in the league, you're going, that's the guy. Without seeing him play when he plays on a Sunday, obviously there's lots of things going in there. The O-line's not been great. We've had multiple wide receivers out, no running game at all. On paper, he is literally a fit for the NFL. So whether it's just he's not had the right guidance behind the scenes, we've seen glimpses of what he can do. I don't know, because like I said, look how bad it is when he's not in there. So is it just the fact? I mean, again, this week, I don't think we've got any healthy receivers. And Kenny Golladay is the healthiest receiver we've got at the moment. I don't know. That's probably one for another show. But Washington, like I said, I can't even see us moving the ball into their half, really. It just doesn't look like we've got the ability to do it. So Washington. On to next game. A lot of implications with this one. It's the Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen a stat bandied around as much as what I have this week of the Colts have not won in Jacksonville since 2014, and it's like it has been everywhere. The one thing I would say, the Jags are awful. The Colts are decent, and they need to win in order to confirm their spot in the playoffs. I think the Colts will go out, and I think they will go out very, very strong at the beginning and get a big lead. And interestingly, this is what happened in the reverse fixture. And then what they did is they kind of took their foot off the gas a bit, and the Jags kind of came back, but they still won pretty comfortably. It was like they were still keeping them at arm's length. The one bet for it, and it really, really pains me to do it. It really does. They're giving Jacksonville a 15-point head start on the spread, and I just get the feeling that there's nothing. Although the Colts want to win, there's nothing to make them go for a blowout and absolutely destroy them. It's just not. It's not there, and also they're not that team either. Carson Wentz is not that quarterback who's going to put up like 5-6 touchdowns on someone. Now I know Jonathan Taylor could do it, but the Colts just aren't that team. They never have been. They're quite functional. So the Jags at plus 15 at 10-11, I think is a huge head start in an NFL game. And although they are struggling, they do have some players that do have the potential to do a little bit. Trevor Lawrence has shown a little bit more since Urban Meyer's gone. Marvin Jones has sort of been a bit more there. Agumbawale has shown that he can run the ball. So yeah, plus 15, I think that's probably the bet. Having said all that, I will be amazed if the Colts don't win.
I mean, I was amazed they lost last year, mate. The only difference in the team is they had Philip Rivers at quarterback and didn't have Quitty Pay. Other than that, it's the same team, same wide receiving core, same running backs. Marlon Mack actually played a bit more back in last year. They lost last year to them and Jacksonville. So, it's not the case that the Jacksonville are bad and Colts are good. We've seen that happen and still seen them lose. But yeah, that was week 1 last year. So, this is the nitty gritty sort of area of the year. So we're not going to see that. I cannot see the Colts losing this one. It's hard to even think about the possibility of that because it just doesn't make sense. I think the defense is clicking at the right time. I think they're getting that ball going. They are, like I said last week, I see them intercepting the ball all the time. And Trevor Lawrence has been throwing picks like no one's business at the minute. Yeah. I think we'll see a bit more of Naheem Hines in this game. I don't think we'll see loads of Taylor, just in case. I think it'll just be a steady clock management game. Like you said, I think the 15 is good. I think they'll just put the points on the board, get in the lead, and then just try and manage the clock. Just run it and sort of tick it off. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the Colts in this one. On to the next game. It's a must win for either of them if they want a chance. It's the Pittsburgh Steelers at the Baltimore Ravens.
Yeah, I think this could be a bit of a rough end for Big Ben. I'm afraid I don't see them getting this. I think the Ravens will win it. Deontay Johnson's out. And I think that's a massive loss to the Steelers. They're 31st against the run, so Devonta Freeman at 13-8 looks a decent price. But yeah, to me, I just think the Ravens will win it. I think they've got that little bit more. They're not going to want Big Ben to go out on a win in their own stadium. So I think the Ravens will do all they can in order to stop that from happening. And with the Steelers, it's just Najee Harris, really. Once you lose Deontay Johnson, there's not really loads there. And I think it might be. It's a shame that last week wasn't his last game. I think that it could go a bit wrong in this one.
I don't know. I'm still going to stick with the Steelers. I still think they've got enough behind them. Ravens equally, they've got a completely bashed up secondary. Lamar Jackson's not playing again, is he? I think he's still out.
He's been decent, hasn't he? Huntley's looked okay.
Yeah, he fits the playbook, doesn't he? Still got that athletic ability, still good at throwing on the run. So he's managed to fit the playbook very well. I just think, Steelers, they are good. I do like them. I'd argue that they've still got Pat Freiermuth, who finished 1 behind Deontay Johnson in targets last week. When he's not got concussion, he is one of the favourite targets of Big Ben. And he's a favourite target in the end zone. And he's 13-5.
Yeah, I mean, Freiermuth has looked good this year. He's come out and looked decent. In a class where all anyone was talking about was Kyle Pitts, Freiermuth has shown that
what are you on about? I brought up Baby Gronk.
Apart from you, everyone else was only interested in Kyle Pitts. But Freiermuth has shown that he's definitely going to be a good quarterback, a good tight end for his career if he can keep fit. The problem that will be with him, and not so much. I mean, I suppose like you say, with Johnson out, Freiermuth becomes the obvious target for Big Ben, so he probably would be worth having a look at. But I think the one problem with him when it comes to the future will be whether or not Big Ben is, Big Ben won't be there. So we're going to have someone to be able to.
Lost Adam slightly there. He's breaking up, and we've lost him. But as we were saying, I think what Adam was trying to touch on there was it depends what quarterback comes in for Big Ben for the progression of Pat Frymouth. If someone comes in that's got a bit of a cannon of an arm and they're going to be the deep threat, Frymouth's not going to see the production that he gets like he does from Ben. Najee Harris has proved he can be an every down back. So they're going to be a run first, play action, deep threat. So there's that middle of the field where, yes, he's going to get targets through the game just to move the short game, but he's not going to be a main target. As we've seen, Big Ben's always loved a tight end. They've always worked well there when he's been there. So I don't think, it all depends what style of quarterback comes in for Big Ben in that match. As I said, if you do want to cheat, like I don't usually do the bets, but I've got a few cheeky ones on here. There are some nice odds if you want maybe some bigger winners. And as I said, Pat Frymouth is 13-5 in that game. So we've never listened to me before. We usually listen to Adam, but hey ho. We'll try and hold off slightly to see if he is going to come back for the next game. We'll give him a couple of minutes. If not, I'll move on. And we'll move on to the last one of the early fixtures. And that is the Tennessee Titans at the Houston Texans. Obviously, the Tennessee Titans need to win this to cement the first seed in the AFC, which I think personally is a must for them because there's lots of talks of Derrick Henry coming back. And if they can get a bye next week through the first round of the playoffs, that gives them even more chance of him being fit, healthy, ready to go, if that is the case. So I think this is a must-win for them going up against a team, the Houston Texans, which hasn't been brilliant all season. We've got Adam back. Hello, welcome back.
Hello.
You missed me just saying, I think we moved on to the last of the early window, the Titans at the Houston Texans. I think this is a must-win game for the Titans to cement the first seed because of the talk of Derrick Henry being back, giving them an extra week to potentially get him back for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this is massive for the Titans, especially now that the Chiefs have won. I think it's huge for the Titans. They really need to make sure the position they're in, they need to make sure they get the number one seed. And I think that they probably will. I think they're strong enough to beat the Texans. I really like Donta Foreman in this game. The Texans are awful against the run. They're ranked last against it. Really like him at 11-10. Might also be worth having a look at Tannehill because Tannehill always seems to get in before you nick the quarterbacks. So, yeah, I mean, again, a rushing touchdown for Tannehill wouldn't be a surprise. I think they're the two that you'd be worth having a look at. But yeah, I put my betting video out earlier. Really like Donta Foreman in this. I think he's going to want to show that just because Derrick Henry's back, he's still going to be like, "Hi, I'm here," kind of thing. And he's shown in the last few weeks that he's a good, decent running back. So yeah, I think that's a good bet. But I just think the Titans will be too strong for the Texans in this.
Yeah, I think if they get off to a flying start as well and do really put up some points early, then I think you could probably look at Hilliard as well. Running back. He's been good coming in. He's a bit better, more of a catching back. He's 9-4 as well. So I think you've got either of them are probably good bets. I do think the Titans are too strong for the Texans, despite the Texans have been playing a little bit better over the back end of the season. I do think the Titans will score. I don't think it'll be a complete shutout. That in mind, I was looking at who might score for the Houston Texans, and Brandon Cooks is 3-1. That's some big odds.
So Cooks is someone who has been underrated throughout his whole career and is a really, really good wide receiver. The problem with Cooks is that you've got Davis Mills is the one who's throwing the ball, and the fact is that some games he seems to do okay. He does all right and he will get a few touchdowns and stuff like that, but they're never a team that's going to score that many points, unfortunately. So that's it. It's very much it's not a bad bet. I wouldn't put you off of it, but it's very much 1 week it could happen, 1 week it won't. And the Titans aren't necessarily the greatest defense in the world. So, I mean, there is possibilities there.
I mean, he scored last week. He didn't play the week before, and then he scored 2 the week prior to that. I was just more looking. You're the solid better. You go for the sensible bets. So I just wanted to bring to the last show some bigger odds for people to see if they wanted to, So that's all it is. I just like the 3-1.
Well, Cooks is a decent shout. I mean, he's not an awful shout at all. But like I say, it can be a bit hit and miss.
So we're both on the Titans for that game as we move away from betting slightly. The next game, again, a lot of implications in this game. It's the New Orleans Saints at the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I think, again, to me, although it's a divisional game, although the Falcons are not going to want to lose in their own stadium to the Saints, I just feel the Saints have got that little bit more to play for because they're trying to get into the playoffs. The Falcons struggle against the run, so Kamara is an obvious one at 11-10. But I do really like Taysom Hill at 11-8. I think that's a slightly bigger price, which I think, I can see that happening. I just think the Saints are going to have just that little bit too much when it comes to the defense, certainly. And offensively, I'm not sure with Matt Ryan. He's not had the greatest of seasons. There's no Calvin Ridley still. So it is literally Kyle Pitts and Russell Gage. It's not great. So I think the Saints, purely because I think they're probably likely to keep their starters out for longer and really sort of like go for it a bit more than what the Falcons will.
Yeah, I personally think the Falcons have got a better team than the Saints. I think the Saints have got better defense. But for me, I don't know whether I'm looking at it wrong or what have you, but I prefer the Falcons, and I think they're at home. It's divisional rivalry. They won't want to lose. I think Kyle Pitts is going in to beat a rookie record, possibly. We might see one of those records get beat for most receiving yards from a rookie tight end.
Yeah.
What does he need? Does he need...
It's not a lot. I'm not sure how many he needs.
30 or 40 yards, something like that.
Yeah, it's not a lot, and you would feel that he would probably get it. I think the Falcons have the more conventional offense, which is what makes us all think it's a bit stronger. But I just kind of think that there's just more in it for the Saints, and that'll probably be enough.
Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Falcons. So I think if Saints win and 49ers lose, Saints qualify for the playoffs, don't they?
Yeah.
But yeah, if Falcons win, 49ers are automatically in regardless. So, a lot of implications in that one to keep an eye on. Me and Adam are split on that one, so that could be very interesting in that fixture. We move on to the next game, which is the New York Jets at the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, I really, really like the over on this one. I really do. They've got it at 40.5 points at 10-11. It's part of the bet that I put out. When you look at the average amount of points that both teams put out, the Jets are 18.8, the Bills are 28.5. Even when you look at the home and away splits, it's still above the 40.5. I know there's some bad weather apparently in Buffalo, but even still, the Jets defense really, really struggle to stop the run, and they struggle to stop the pass. So I think because of that, the Bills are going to be able to put up quite a lot of points in a game that they have to win if they want to beat the Patriots to the division, which I feel they probably want to. So I think because of that, I think it's a game where there's going to be quite a few points in there. And the other thing is the Jets are a team that are not... There is a slight difference to what they've been this year compared to last year. It feels a little bit Detroit-like, where it's almost like Robert Saleh has got a bit more sort of passion and aggression in their game a little bit more. And it kind of feels like that they're going to be able to put up a few points. Not a lot, but I can see them getting a couple of touchdowns. But I just think the Bills will get a lot more, and it'll go over the 40 points spread. So I think the over's great, but I think the Bills will win it fairly comfortably.
Yeah. Am I right in saying that if the Jets do win this game, they move down 2 spots in the draft order, I think so?
Yeah, I know that it's weird. I think I think we all talk about that a lot more than what the teams actually do, because I think there is that pride, isn't there, that they want to win, and that they don't want to just lose games all the time. And I get what you're saying, and you do sort of think to yourself, it makes more sense if you were to lose this game, but I just don't think that's how they think when they're on the field.
I would be if I was the general manager and the head coach. You know, I played to sort of like the first half, I played to win it. And if it wasn't really going that way, I'd maybe just go, let's just try out some of the players that haven't had as much game time and see what else we've got to build on next year, which is what the plan was for the Jets all for the season. Bills, yeah, a lot of implications for them. It's a must-win game for them. It's at home. We've said their run game's not fantastic, despite bad weather. So I think you'll still see Allen throw the ball.
Yeah.
I quite like Gabriel Davis in this game. I think they might target some of the second and third string players a bit more. Especially, he might become the number one receiver if they do take off Diggs to rest him. And he's 21-10. Quite like those odds in my eyes. But yeah, I think it'll be a comfortable win. I don't think it'll be a high scoring game, but I think it'll be a comfortable win for the Bills. On to the next fixture. It is the San Francisco 49ers at the LA Rams.
Yeah, so I'm going to go against the Rams here. I'm going to go for the 49ers. Now the 49ers matched up really, really well against the Rams. They always have done. And I think that offensive line is going to be strong enough to stop the defensive line of the Rams. Because of that, we don't know 100% who's going to be at quarterback. We don't know if it's going to be Jimmy G. We don't know if it's going to be Trey Lance. If Trey Lance is out there 100-30 anytime, that's kind of a big price one, which I think could come off. It should have come off last week. It can come off this week. So I do like that. The run game of the 49ers is strong. You've got Eli Mitchell there. Jeff Wilson's there. I think Deebo Samuel coming out the back is another thing that they always do a lot. I don't think the Rams are going to necessarily cope with that very well. The one guy that I do like for the Rams at the price as well at 7-4, we mentioned it last week and he scored, and he's, instead of being 4 out of 5, he's now 5 out of 6, is OBJ. I think Beckham is a definite one to look at 7-4. But I like the 49ers, how they match up against the Rams. I did last time, have done a few for a couple of years now, and I think it'll be the same again.
The Rams need to win this to actually top the division. If they lose, then and Cardinals win, the Cardinals will top it, won't they?
Yeah.
Do you think the implications of that are going to be played in mind, or the fact that they're in it it doesn't really matter? Do you think that seeding really helps?
I think it helps if you can. I think if the Rams win, then they become the second seed, don't they? So yeah. They have to be looking at that, going, look, we can get the number 2 seed here. They should be, but I just feel that the matchup between the two, it's two teams that need to win, but the matchup between the two suits the 49ers and always has done. And I just kind of feel like it's just going to continue because nothing's changed from the last game, really. It's like it's all the same players out there. So I don't see why it would change now. So yeah, I quite like the 49ers. But the two that I like is Beckham and Lance, and for bets on it.
I think the best way for the Rams, who play in California, to keep away from going to Lambeau Field and going up to the Packers is second seed.
Yeah,
so I think that's going to be playing in their mind. I think they're going to come out all guns blazing. I don't think we're going to see a drop off from their receivers or their defense. Cook going for another record as well. It's a lot.
Yeah, he doesn't need a lot, does he? He only need, isn't it like 40 yards or something like that? He should get that record fairly easily.
2 records.
Yeah, touchdowns as well, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, my only concern is Stafford as well. That's another one. It's like whenever it comes to a big game, he tends to shrink a little bit. don't particularly like Stafford. So yeah, don't know. But I would stick with the 49ers.
Is he on to beat Michael Thomas's record for the most receptions as well? Is that possible? Is
I
that too
can't
far out?
remember. He's on for about, there's like 2 or 3 records that he could get.
Yards and receptions definitely on
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I'm going to stick with the Rams in this one. I really like them going into this game. Do you think everything you said does play massively in? And I can see the 49ers maybe getting a sneaky upset here, but I'm going to stick with the Rams. I think it'll be a great game to watch. I think that would definitely be one to have on in the background if you have got Red Zone on. On to the next game. It's the New England Patriots at the Miami Dolphins.
Yeah, so this is another one I was looking at where there's not a lot when it comes to the players, but again the total. I mean, I'm looking at the overs again. They're only going at 40 points. It's not a lot, and the Patriots average 27.4 points a game. Dolphins a little bit less at 19.3, but like I said, the same with the Bills and the Jets. Even with the home away splits, you look at them, it's still above the 40 points. The Patriots have always struggled a little bit in Miami over the last few years. It's been a bit of a weird one that seems to have happened. Having said that, the Patriots need to win if they want to win the division. So they kind of have to go out and go for it a bit. But it'll be interesting again, Brian Flores against his old team. It's an interesting game. I think the Patriots will probably win it. I think it'll be quite close, but I think they will just score enough points between the two of them in order to go above 40.
Yeah, oddly, I've heard that we're not going to see Christian Wilkerson in this game. Apparently,
We're not.
apparently Nelson Aguilar has been cleared to play, and Wilkerson's not going to play. I found that bizarre, really. He's played one game, 2 touchdowns, like 8 targets, 4 catches. I mean,
good stat line for his career.
I mean, I would have been betting on that guy if he was going to play. I think the Dolphins were caught out when they went up against a better team. I think although that win streak was really impressive, the caliber of teams that they played in that win streak maybe wasn't as up there as what the Patriots are. They came a little bit unstuck last week, and I think the Patriots are just way too strong. Like I said, they need to win this game. I think they'll win it. I think they'll win it comfortably. I think you might see them try to make a bit of a point as well. If anything, they don't want to just win this game, and people then going into playoffs thinking that they can areas of weakness. I think they need to go in and comfortably win this one, because the Patriots are one that have had a few question marks through the season. So yeah, I think they'll win it comfortably. I think Miami have been caught out. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the Patriots. We move on to the next game. This one could be an interesting one. It's the Seattle Seahawks at the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, this was a difficult one. I was looking at them, just thinking which way do you go. I think the Cardinals are the better team at the moment. The Seahawks haven't got anything to play for. The only thing that you can kind of say for the Seahawks is that it could be Russell Wilson's last game there. That might be enough in order for him to do what he did last week. But I do wonder if that was more as a show for the home fans rather than anything else. The Cardinals are, they need to get back to winning ways. I do like Christian Kirk for this one, 15-8. I think that's a decent bet. The Seahawks are 31st against the pass. I did look at AJ Green, who's a little bit smaller, but I think he's going to get marked a bit more out of it. So Christian Kirk's not a bad price. But yeah, I think I'd probably lean slightly towards the Cardinals in this game, but it's not a particularly positive selection, I must say.
Yeah, I'm a bit 50-50 of where to go with this one. I think it might be a quite high-scoring game. I think Seahawks are going to want to come out and do what they did last week again. I think they need to, again, I think they're another team like the Browns. They need to finish the season on a high to give the fans something to look forward to next year. and show them, if you get put 2 back-to-back good games at the end of the year, it gives you something maybe to look forward to. We know that team might change incredibly. This could be Wilson's last game there. But like we said, I think it's a big game for the Cardinals. I think they do need to win it just to give themselves a chance. I do like them in this one. I think they are the better team in this game. I think that Anton Wesley, who's come in for DeAndre Hopkins, has been brilliant over the last 2 games.
Yeah.
He looks like a wide threat down the sideline. He looks to be catching all those balls. He's 9-4. Like I said, he's had touchdowns in his last 2 games up against the Colts and Dallas, who both semi-decent secondary. So, yeah, I like him in this game. And I think James Conner and Chase Edmonds and Eno Benjamin all fit to play. So I think we'll see a good rotation of them as well, which helps them. So, yeah, I'm going to stick with the Cardinals in this one for a win. I think they're just a little bit better than the Seahawks, and there's more for them to play for. We move on to the next game. It's the Carolina Panthers at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Lots of drama in Tampa at the moment.
just a little bit, yeah. There's not really a lot for either team to be playing for here. I mean, the Bucs are kind of in, but they're not going to get much higher. I mean, they could get the 2nd seed, I think. But to be honest, I don't think the Bucs really care that much if they were to get the 2nd or the 3rd. The Panthers have got very little to play for. I suppose they don't want to go out in a loss. Like you said, with a lot of these games, it's about fan bases looking forward to the future. So there's that for the Panthers. But away to the Bucs it's a tough ask. Even without Antonio Brown now, the Bucs have still got some good players. Gronk, I always go Gronk when it comes to anytime bet. He's 6-4. He's a good price. He's going to get lots of receptions. The other one who might be worth having a look at is Cameron Brate. Not quite sure what price he is, but I think he might be one that's worth looking at as, Gronk, he's not going to be out there for every snap anymore. So I think Brate will come in a bit for that. But yeah, I think the Bucs will win it quite easily.
Yeah, I mean, both those games are going to be going on at the same time, the 49ers and the Bucs game. So there might be something to watch for there. Again, it's you've got to look at the implications. I know Brady used to play in New England where it is freezing cold, but he had a great run game. The run game at the Bucs is more of a 2nd string like decision to make. They've not, they haven't got Fournette anymore. So I wouldn't want to go to the Packers and have to rely on throwing the ball all game. So I think that there's still implications for them to try and get that 2nd seed again. So yeah, I think they're going to be in this one to win it. Carolina, I think they've got to make a point. They've got to, I think Matt Rule's another one that, although it's come out that they're going to give him another year and all of that, I think he's still got to make good decisions and viable and keep in this game. But I think the Bucs are too strong. They play to win anyway, so Tom Brady wouldn't have it any other way. So yeah, I'm going to stick with the Bucs in this one, despite the drama that they've had. And then the late game is another one. Again, it's one of the big ones to watch for the implications, and it's the late one as well. So it's all down to that. I'm surprised they've let that be a late game. I would have thought that would have been at the same time as the other games that were in implication with this, and that's the Chargers at the Raiders.
Yeah, I think the reason it's probably gone to the end is because, to be brutally honest, when you look at all of these games, it probably is the most interesting game. And also, to a certain extent, because the Steelers and the Ravens are quite a bit away, it's going to take quite a lot for these things to happen. And if the Colts win, then it's all kind of done anyway for them too. I think they're probably looking at this. This is basically a playoff game, is what this is. It's a really probably the most interesting game out of the whole lot because it is basically a playoff game. Whoever wins gets in the playoffs. Whoever loses doesn't, and that's kind of the end of it. The Chargers have struggled all season against the run. They've really suffered against it. They're 30th against the run. Josh Jacobs is 11-10. He's clearly the main runner in that team now, and I would expect him to get in. Having said all of that, I know it's two teams that are just they try their best to lose. I've never known anything like it. It's unbelievable. They just have this unique knack of throwing it away. And it's a really difficult one to call because of that. But I'm going based on who I believe is the better quarterback and who I believe is the team that are most likely to put up the points. And that's the Chargers. When you look at the stats, I can't remember exactly, but the Chargers have got, so the Chargers have scored 442 points and the Raiders have scored 339 over the same amount of games, and they're both 9-7. The funny thing is that the Chargers have only given up 424, but the Raiders have given up 407. So there's a big difference towards the Chargers here. I feel they're the better team. When you actually look at the whole team together. Having said all that, they're both just as likely to screw it up as they always do. So it's a kind of tentative vote to the Chargers because I think they're the better team, but who knows?
I agree. I think the Chargers are the better team going into this one, but they for me have been over. I've always said they're your Raiders sort of thing. Every year. I think the last 3 years when I've been talking to Freddie about it on here, I've said the Chargers find a way to mess it up, as you always say about that. So it's odd that it comes down to the two that we've been saying can mess it up, and whoever wins goes through. So one of them is definitely not messing it up this year. And I think the Chargers, I think they've got a great, talented young quarterback. I think they've got the better receivers and the better running back. I think Jacobs and Eckler are very similar. Both run the ball a lot, but are used in the catching game. I think Eckler is better at it. I have found a lot watching the Raiders. For some reason, they're bringing Kenyon Drake in for a bit more of the red zone, which I found a bit odd. But hey-ho. I just think overall, Derwin James has had a good bounce-back season. I think he's had a bit of a breakout year for him, despite being a massive talent. I just think that offense is a lot more fuel in it, better O-line. I'm going to stick with the Chargers to win this one, and really looking forward to watching it though, because it's going to be such a good game. I think it might be a bit of a nail biter. I think it'll go down to the wire. But Chargers I've gone with. That's all the games we've got. There's no other games for week 18. You put a betting video out. You've got a big bet video out.
Yeah, so the video that's gone out is Donta Foreman over 40.5 points in the Bills-Jets game, and then Josh Jacobs. So the treble is about 7.5 to 1. I always say back the singles, back the doubles if you want consistent profit and stuff like that. If you want like other things, I do feel that a lot of these games, I feel like the bookies have kind of they've brought the totals down quite low, because I think their theory is that there's going to be a lot of replacements. No one really knows who's going to be playing 100%. I think we saw last night with the Eagles, they brought in a lot of replacements and they still put up 23, 26 points, something like that. We saw in a team that had nothing to play for in the Denver Broncos put up 24 points against Kansas City. I still feel that there's going to be points put up by quite a few of these teams, and that some of them have kind of been they've sort of almost overreacted to the fact there's going to be replacements. And especially in games that actually matter, like I say, the Bills-Jets, the Bills, they want to win. The Patriots want to win because they want to beat the Bills to the championship. You've got the Chargers game, the 49ers game, the Titans game. Even teams that don't have anything to really play for, like the Bengals and the Browns, I think, the total's over 37. It's not actually that much when you think about it. So I think there's a few of these games that you might want to look at the overs for. Other than that, if you want something a bit bigger, I think Patterson for Washington is a possibility. I think Lance for the 49ers, especially if he starts, is a big possibility. And slightly small, I mean, you got like OBJ and Devonta Freeman as well for the Ravens against Steelers. So there are a few things out there, but it's there's not lots. And obviously, given that we don't 100% know who's playing, it's a bit harder this week. But it's always a bit harder on the last week of the season.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head a little bit there. That if you're a backup and you've been brought in to play, and you're on a team that's going to qualify for the playoffs, you're essentially playing for a place to play in the playoffs. Like I said, Cedric Wilson's real stepped up. I think he'll be used more in the playoffs. We see Wesley at the Cardinals. He's stepped up last 2 weeks. If he continues that, is he going to be used more in the playoffs? There's a lot for these guys to play for, coming off and being the fourth string, fifth string, to get that third string place and used more so.
Well, they're playing for contracts as well. You know, this is the other thing, and I think that's something that gets overlooked. They're playing for contracts and not necessarily at the team that they're playing for. You know, it's like they're just trying to put themselves in the shop window a little bit. And so I think, because the one thing that I noticed watching the Kansas City game, everyone the commentary team were going, oh, well, they're still really playing for Vic Fangio. They're still really playing for him. And you just sort of think to yourself, yeah, but is Melvin Gordon playing for Vic Fangio, or is Melvin Gordon playing for the fact that his contract is coming to an end and he might end up on another team? And so
he might end up at the Giants next year.
Yeah, exactly. But that might be what it is. He's like, look, okay, yeah, he fumbled the ball, but he had a 47-yard touchdown run as well. I mean, so is he really playing for Vic Fangio, or is it more that he's playing for the fact that he might not be there next year, and so he's like, I need to show that I'm still capable.
Yeah, definitely agree with that. Well, that's all we've got time for this week. It's our last regular season show. Thank you for joining us over the 18 weeks. We've loved it. We love doing this show. Best of luck to all your teams going into the last week. Hope to get the result that you want. We'll be back on Tuesday for a special guest on the show. We spoke about that. And then we'll be back to talk about the playoffs next week, which should be exciting. But till then, thank you for joining us, and goodbye.